The story begins on the morning of June 15th, 2023, in the bustling city of San Francisco. USA lived three friends: 26-year-old Clara, whose eyes held dreams of fighting storms and a passion for exploring the untouched corners of the world; her best friend, 25-year-old Maya; and their third companion, 28-year-old Liam, a fearless and experienced sailor. Wanting a break from their mundane daily lives, they planned to spend their vacation exploring a new island. Their decision was adventurous and dangerous. They would go to an island where human footsteps had never before trodden. They found that island in an old maritime map. Ethelgard Island was a small green speck in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. They prepared their small but sturdy ship, the Albatross. Months of rations, water, and all necessary supplies were loaded onto the ship. Their excitement was sky high. They were going to discover a new world. Happily, they set sail towards their destination, a journey that would be the greatest test of their friendship and courage. For 4 days, their journey continued on the vast blue ocean. Every day, the sun rose and turned the ocean water golden. They watched dolphins race alongside their ship. On the morning of the fourth day, June 19th, a faint green line appeared on the distant horizon. As they drew closer, that line transformed into a massive island. Ethelgard Island was far more magnificent and desolate than their imagination. Its jungle was so dense that even sunlight could not reach the ground. Sharp black volcanic rocks stood along the shores, with waves crashing against them, creating a mysterious melody. The air was filled with a strange scent of sweet wildflowers and rotting wood. Sounds of unseen, colorful birds came from the jungle. This place was as beautiful as it was terrifying. Liam anchored the ship in a calm and safe cove. All three stepped onto the island from their small boat for the first time. It felt as if they had entered another world or another era. They were completely lost in this untouched beauty. They had no idea that they had entered not a paradise, but a cage from which escape was impossible. Their first 7 days on the island were like a magical dream. Every day they discovered something new and astonishing. They saw glowing blue mushrooms at night, whose light made the jungle seem otherworldly. They found a very old, dilapidated hut covered in vines. It seemed like the last trace of a forgotten civilization. They spent their days exploring the island and celebrated their discoveries by lighting a fire at night. This was the best time of their lives. They were free and happy. But their happiness was only a guest for 7 days. On the morning of June 26th, the day of their return arrived. They loaded all their belongings back onto the Albatross. Liam smiled and turned the key to start the ship's engine, but only a clunk sound came from the engine, followed by a deep silence. Tried again, then again, but the engine would not start. After hours of struggle, they still could not fix it. The ship's radio and communication system were also completely dead. Now, they were cut off from the world. There was no way to ask for help. That paradise-like island now felt like a terrifying prison. The sparkle of joy in their eyes had been replaced by fear. At one last hope, a small, motorized emergency lifeboat kept on the ship. However, there was a major problem written on it. Capacity for only 2 people. All 3 could not go together on it. It was impossible. After a long, silent, and tense night, a heartbreaking decision was made. Liam and Maya would leave in the lifeboat to get help. Clara would wait for them on the ship. Liam explained, according to the map, that they should return in 8 days. They left Clara with a 10-day supply of food and water, along with a flare gun so she could signal if needed.
Ow.
The morning of June 27th was the most difficult morning of Clara's life. She tearfully hugged her 2 friends. "We will return soon, Clara. Do not lose hope." Clara stood on the deck of the Albatross, watching them move away. She kept watching until the boat became a small dot and disappeared into the ocean. She went back inside the ship's small cabin, which was now her home. She drew the first mark on the cabin wall. Day 1. Every morning she looked at the ocean with hope and drew another mark on the wall. 10 days passed. 10 marks were drawn, but no one returned. On the morning of the 11th day, the sun rose, but the sun of Clara's hope had set. She understood. She was now completely alone in this unknown world. Clara felt that her friends had abandoned her, But the poor girl did not know that her friends were no longer in this world. The day Liam and Maya left the island, the shadow of death began to loom over them the very next day. The sky suddenly turned black, and the ocean went mad. Mountain-high waves tossed their small boat around like a toy. Liam tried with all his might to control the boat, but their courage failed against that terrible storm. A monstrous wave tossed their boat into the air and capsized it. In an instant, both of them were swallowed by the depths of that cold, deep, and merciless ocean. Their promise, their friendship, their lives, everything was buried there. And here on Ethelgard Island, Clara was waiting for that promise to come true. A promise that was never meant to be fulfilled. Every night, she huddled in the ship's cabin, listening to the sound of the storm and wondering where her friends could be. She did not know that the storm she feared had forever taken her friends from her. Her waiting would now never end. She was left on that island to live alone and to die alone. The certainty of her friend's departure had broken her from within. Now the fight was just to stay alive, a battle for every breath. Food had run out weeks ago. She often went hungry for days. With stones tied to her stomach, there was no spring of water to drink. She relied solely on rain. When it did not rain for weeks, her throat would dry up from thirst. In the morning, she would quench her thirst by licking dewdrops from leaves. Nights were the most terrifying. Herds of wild boars roamed around the ship, scratching the ground. The sound of their grunting made Clara's soul tremble. She would tightly close the cabin door and silently wait for morning. But hunger is greater than any fear. One day, tormented by hunger for many days, she made a decision. If she wanted to live, she would have to kill. She sharpened a piece of iron from the ship by rubbing it on a stone, creating a sharp spear. She decided to hunt a dangerous wild boar. It was a deadly decision where one mistake meant death, but Clara had nothing left to lose. Clara's life now became a routine. Hunt, survive. After weeks of effort and many injuries, she made her first kill. That day, after many months, she ate meat to her fill. But every hunt was a deadly battle. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into a year. Clara had completed 365 marks on the wall. 1 year had passed. That delicate girl from the city had now completely transformed into a wild warrior. She had made strong clothes for herself from boar hides. To combat loneliness, she had made a small flute from bamboo. Every evening, she played sorrowful tunes on it that echoed across the desolate island. Time continued to pass. The number of marks on the wall had crossed 400. Clara was now physically and mentally exhausted, broken. One afternoon, she sat sadly on the ship's deck, looking at the ocean. Then she saw a dot on the distant horizon. It was a ship. A flood of blood suddenly rushed through Clara's dry veins. She screamed with all her might. She lit a fire, waved clothes, but it was all in vain. The ship continued on its path and disappeared from sight. That day, Clara's heart broke forever. But from that broken heart, a new stubbornness was born. I will not die rotting here. I will fight this ocean. She decided she would escape from this island. For almost a month, Clara worked day and night. She gathered the strongest bamboo poles and vines. She used all her strength and every skill she had learned on the island. She tightly bound the bamboo poles to create a small raft. She also fashioned a small sail from cloth found in the ship's wreckage. She named her boat Hope. She collected dried fish and meat for a few weeks' supply. For fresh water, she filled hollow coconut shells, and yes, she also kept her precious flute with her. On the 426th day, she pushed her little Hope into the ocean. She looked back one last time at the island that was both her prison and her home, and then she ventured into the unknown vast ocean. For the first few days, her courage held. She continued to move forward with the help of the sail, but soon she had to face the reality. She was like a leaf in this endless ocean, with no shore in sight. For miles around, there was only blue water and silence. Now, even the solitude of the island seemed like a blessing. Her food and water were diminishing with each passing day. She had played the biggest and most dangerous gamble of her life. 1 month, then 2 months. Clara was now completely lost at sea. After fighting alone for approximately 450 days, she was now close to her end. She was now surviving only on rainwater, which fell occasionally. The scorching sun of the day was her biggest enemy. Her skin was burnt black and cracked in places. Salt water and wind had given her countless wounds on her body. She was so weak from hunger that it was no longer possible to move. Her body was reduced to a skeletal frame. She now often experienced hallucinations. She heard voices. She felt that Maya and Liam were calling her from the boat. Sometimes large sharks circled her boat, but now she did not feel fear either. She had surrendered herself to death. She just lay unconscious on her boat, waiting for her last breath. She had fought every battle to live, but now she had lost this battle. Her courage had given up. Her body had given up. The end of her story was now only a few hours away. She was going to die nameless in this vast, merciless ocean. It was the 456th day of her captivity, and perhaps her last. She was in a semi-conscious state when she heard a faint echo from a great distance. Perhaps this was also her delusion, she thought, but the echo grew louder. It was the sound of an engine. She gathered all the remaining strength of her life and lifted her neck. Far, not too far, she saw a ship. It was a large research vessel named Orion Star. It was so close that people walking on it were also visible. Clara tried to scream, but only a whisper escaped her throat. A stream of warm tears flowed from her eyes. What kind of fate was this? Life was so close, yet so far away. Then her gaze fell upon the flute in her lap. A thought struck her like lightning. My flute. She picked it up with trembling, broken hands. She placed it on her cracked lips and blew into it with the last ounces of her breath. A very weak, broken, pain-filled, and hopeful melody emerged. On the deck of the Orion Star, an officer was peacefully gazing at the ocean. Then he heard that strange, sorrowful, and impossible melody carried by the wind. He asked his companion in surprise, "Did you hear that? It's like someone crying." They looked in that direction with binoculars and saw that small raft. "Someone is in the water," the ship's siren blared. When the rescue team reached her, Clara was unconscious, but her fingers had tightly clutched her flute. That single melody had pulled her back from the jaws of death. She had defeated death with her courage and the tune of that flute. If Clara's incredible story has touched your heart, please give this video a like and comment below to tell us which part of the story gave you goosebumps. For more amazing stories like this, subscribe to my channel now. See you in the next story. Till then, keep your courage.